Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Righteous Force, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, you enthusiastic lot. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from... Go on, get them all out now, I've got enthusiastic for you. Hello, Discord.
I tried, Nathan, but Righteous brought it down when he said good morning. Come on, Righteous, get up.
Well, I just came off mute.
Okay, let's try that one more time. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved adjacent?
Don't be silly. Don't be silly.
No way.
Morning, whoever that was.
That was me again. Thought I made it funny. I guess not.
It was sufficiently different for me to not recognise your voice. Very good.
No.
Right.
You said, let's try it again. And so he said, okay, I will. Good morning.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to have to be less literal at this time in the morning for you Americans. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve? I know that halfway through the show, people will start telling me about how people are around and about on the circuit still using Earth curve calculators and asserting that Earth curves blocking boats and stuff. Yet when I ask in the housekeeping, silence.
Well, the silence is deafening. That's why we're silent.
No, I want the accounts. I want people saying, no, the other day I was in this blah, blah, blah server and some guy bought up Earth curve, and the next thing you know, they're talking about this Earth curve calculator.
Okay, they constantly do it at Gem Pandas, and they constantly do it at Jose G. Gonzalez. They ignore everything. They're still going with boats over the horizon, a proof of Earth curve. Yeah. What are you going to do?
We welcome Adam and Arwin.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
See, Neil, that's what you do. You welcome Adam and Arwen.
No, Adam's
I
going
got something to bend Neil's head.
Go.
I'm 2 minutes late just because I was just catching a video. It's been put out by on Flat Earth Banjo's channel, but it's our old friend Wakey Wakey. I forgot his name.
Mark Knight.
Thank you, Nathan. Interestingly, a name some people may know, David Wilcock. You know, the supposed reincarnation of Edgar Casey and the Great Mystic and Alien.
I know exactly.
Yeah, right. He's come and attacked Flat Earth, claiming it's rubbish. It's all ad hom, and misunderstanding of his own model. But that we're all government agents. We're out with disinformation to derail the great alien revolution, I think.
What?
It appears.
Oh, he feels threatened by us because his great alien revolution relies on heliocentrism and its ideas of sky vacuums and space. Bless him. Oh, you feel threatened, do you? You should.
What?
Well, if we're working for the government, I haven't gotten paid at all, so I would like a check.
The thing I found interesting, I'll post a link. It's only 7 minutes. But in all of the kind of weak attack videos, the standard rhetorics are used. But this is the first time I've heard somebody mention a sextant. Incorrectly, he cites it as proof with Aristarchus and his sticks in the ground, but the sextant got mentioned, and I found that interesting. I've never heard anybody on their side ever bring it up before, especially.
What did he say?
No, hold on. Let's not ask too many questions before we labour the point directly. So he's using a sextant in his argument for Aristarchus, did you say?
Yeah. Like I said, he doesn't know his arse from his elbow in terms of what he's saying. He's just he's citing the rhetoric he thinks he remembers.
Okay. He's citing a rhetoric that's going to require a flat plane.
Yes.
Would you like to explain why, in case this gets trimmed out?
Well, he's going to measure, he uses a sextant to measure an angle. He's going to need a straight adjacent, not a curved one. He's going to be needing to take those measurements, like the kitchen, whatever he's going to take his measurements and do with afterwards, he's going to have to take them off of a flat plane.
Perfect. Maybe he didn't realise that his elevation angle in this instance, when citing Aristarchus, would leave him requiring a flat plane to assert the angle measurement in the first instance. Obviously, he didn't realise that. But it's nice that you've used the sextant so we can point out that you're going to need a flat plane for that.
Well, we covered it in the pre-show. Elevation angle is an angle up from the horizontal. So if he had a stick in the ground, he just proved the flat plane.
Well, we've got a useful diagram queued up. The one with the side on square and up and the sun labelled in it, 10th man. So it's marking H as your elevation angle.
Yeah. I'm looking. Is it the one that shows this the co-altitude on top?
No, Z, zenith equals zenith angle, A equals azimuth angle.
Yeah, got it. I see it. Yeah, exactly.
You're going to need a flat plane, my friend. Did you not realise?
Mark points this out nicely for him. He goes into some other bits and bobs, which is quite interesting as well, because obviously when they try to cite ancient Greeks, he goes into some of the Greeks at the time that criticised some of the Platonian model, saying it's not mathematically correct, which is lovely. But yeah, very, very interesting to me. And I think just that somebody of this stature in the UFO world is now, attacking us and calling us shills. Why? I mean, we know why. It destroys their narrative. But yeah, basic ad hom was his retort, mate. It's just stupid. And you know that the moon's a sphere, look, because, oh no, we don't know the moon's a sphere.
But he said it destroys his narrative. Let's just do that now for him. So, Mr. Alien Invasion, you believe that there's an area devoid of all matter akin to a vacuum beyond the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air on a planet called Earth in your imagination. So you believe we've got gas pressure without containment and the ability for us to leave and enter a sky vacuum. That would leave us all dead because the gas would expand to fill that space also. That's what gas does. It expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume. And that would be an availability of volume, a space for it to fill. What do you call it? Where the aliens will be coming from? Space? Yeah, that'd be a space for gas to fill, and we'd all be dead if the sky was a vacuum. It stands directly in violation of a natural law known as the second law of thermodynamics. So if the sky was a vacuum for your aliens to come from, then the gas we breathe would fill that space. We'd all be dead if your aliens had a place to come from called space. Space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without containment. Ergo, there is no sky vacuum called space for your aliens to come from. It's completely nonsensical. That's why you're attacking us, flat earthers, because you feel threatened. Because your whole narrative relies upon space. We can debunk it. How embarrassing. Yeah, you better be sure to come along with a few ad homs to let us know that we need putting in our place when you haven't got a region for your aliens to come from anymore because of us. Yeah, you'd be damn sure to be attacking us. Bear in mind that your sky vacuum ain't real when you do so. And we can debunk it with natural law. That'd be the second law of thermodynamics. Look it up. Entropy debunks your place where you think aliens are coming from. That is all.
Well, I was going to say the only argument they'll come back with is akin to trying to debunk the existence of bread with toast. They'll ask about a gas pressure gradient that requires a container to have the gas pressure to begin with.
First, you have gas pressure. That would be gas under pressure because it has something to press upon. That would be containment. Without that necessary antecedent of containment, you wouldn't have any gas pressure. It would fill whatever availability of volume it had. Once you achieve gas pressure, you can then develop things like dynamic systems and gas pressure gradients. So to have a gas pressure gradient, you first must have gas pressure. And if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. We'd all be dead if space was real. Entropy increase. That's all gas wants to do. Fill space. And irony of irony, that's where you think your aliens are coming from, right? Space. A space for the gas we're breathing to fill? Yeah, that's not real. Entropy has debunked that notion. You've all been lied to. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon.
Now, that was one thing he did stay away from as well. No, obviously. You know what I mean? But nice rebuttal there, Nathan. Thanks.
I'll trim it out and put his name on it. But ultimately, his entire religion and worldview and paranoid delusion that he disseminates onto the masses is based on a region that's fake. So everything you do and everything you peddle is debunked by us, isn't it? Sorry, what's his name again? Like I care. You're just another fundy with a belief we're destroying, which means you need to attack us personally, doesn't it? I don't even know what your name is, nor do I care.
Well, he's got an alias. He's somebody else that came back from somewhere that you can't come back from.
What's his name?
Going back.
It's another expansion of it to me. To have somebody in that field who's, like Brian's heard of him, lots of people will have heard of this guy. So for him to be bringing it up in his little alien world, it's interesting. He's bringing it to their consciousness. So
what's his name?
David Wilcock.
David Wilcock. There you go.
That name says it all. Hey, listen, I found out the cause of entropy.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Ready for it?
Let me just give the Nobel Prize Committee a ring first. And then...
It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I think 10th Man knows where I'm going with this. The fall of man is the cause of entropy.
Well, that could be a description of an entropic effect. That's not the cause.
We were not decaying. There was nothing decaying before the fall.
Look, if you want to establish the cause of entropy, you're going to end at the ontological primitives. That's where you'll end up.
Can we just address this? Because that's the misunderstanding of entropy, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, it is decay, though. I mean, things do die, right?
No, a political fall isn't the same as an entropic decay.
Okay, enlighten me then.
Are you Democrat or Republican? We have to come at you the way you think.
Well, talking about physically, things die daily. How many times you say that if you leave your car out 100 years from now, it's going to be rusted, right?
Well, listen.
I heard you say that was entropy.
Neil, the stars were made for signs and seasons.
We're talking about conventions.
Within the 7 days.
Neil's describing...
Doesn't mean there's decay.
Hold on. Neil's describing a convention, right? You can't qualify how conventions come and go on a curve, on a bell curve on a graph as an entropic decay. Now, you might be able to correlate part of the graph with that, but you're talking about the qualification of a convention if you're describing the fall of man. Yeah? That convention's not an entropic decay. We're talking about the natural world, not the decay of a convention. So no.
Okay, all right, then explain it to me.
Just did 10 seconds ago.
Becoming of death.
No, that's not making sense. Because I've heard you say it before.
Okay, let's try a different way. Okay, right. Your love for your wife is a convention, and how much that falls away with time seems, by description, right, the lessening over time, that sounds like entropy, but it isn't, because it's a convention. Your love for your wife isn't decaying in a natural way qualifiable with entropy. Do you understand now?
I understand that, but so you're saying that things decaying over time is not because of entropy?
Depends if what you're describing as decaying over time is a convention or not.
But he's not talking about it. He's not talking about what you're talking about, Nathan. He's talking about literally there was no decay, aka there was no death.
Thank you.
Man didn't have a death date, literally.
That's
That's
why I had
bollocks.
an objection.
That's total bollocks. What are you talking about?
Neil,
That's why I was responding by saying there were seasons.
Sure, then I'm sorry I cut you off.
Okay. Do you know what those seasons were? Everything changed with the fall. So we're going to get into a big debate here, so forget it.
Neil, can I ask you a question? Did hot go to cold before sin?
Oh God!
I got you.
You get me now?
Yeah, I got you.
I'm going to read out Godzilla's chat.
This has to stop.
Just shut everyone up. Godzilla, thank you very much. I don't miss your super chats all the time. It's not true. The globe is dead, and globers are starving. Don't be so callous and send a starving glober a box of crayons today. That's an appeal by Godzilla via super chat. Thank you very much for the support. Sorry,
I
Brian.
got it now. I was confusing entropy. I'm sorry.
Brian, go ahead. Hey, Chocolate. Go ahead, Brian. Go, Brian, go. Go.
Yeah, no, I just said this has to stop, Nathan. This is complete and utter superbolics. Sorry.
Chocolate saying my brother, my co-hostess with the mostest. What's up, man?
Wow.
Did you just call Chocolate your bitch?
We're in the middle of housekeeping.
Check it out.
What's up with the toasters with the mostest?
I'm just kidding. I'm busting his chops.
He's just buttering up his toast. That's what.
Oh, there you go.
I can't see chocolate being called Melba.
Okay, so there's going to be a chocolate slash
Eli.
Eli.
What's going on?
Do a proper plug, otherwise it just becomes an in-joke.
No, it wasn't anything. I was just joking. We're not hosting anything together or anything.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
Nathan,
No.
the panel just is having fun with their pals here. Come on, lighten up.
Live show. Hello.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Almost 100 people
That would be a
watching.
good show.
We still haven't done with house.
Yeah, but do feel free to send money in for the show that they don't host. I manage it and take 10% off the top.
That's
Okay.
right.
So, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I figured that out too. I'm just kidding.
If you want to assert a distance, you'll need an elevation angle for it.
Yeah, by the way, they derive their calculations. You'll need a flat plane for the way that they assert it. Correct. Any angle measurements which are utilised along the process will have a flat plane utilised to get them. Correct.
No, but wait a minute. See, you guys are always trying to straw man the Glober's position. You see, in John's video, the part that was at the base specifically said not a flat plane. It was written in plain English, Nathan.
What? Was it written in blood?
It was on the protractor.
It's also well, that part didn't have any blood on it, so I guess not.
Sorry, on his protractor it said Earth is not a sphere.
It said it was not a plane.
Earth
At
is
the
not a
date.
plane.
Right.
on a protractor.
Right.
And the protractor's the arbiter of your paradigm and worldview, is it?
Well, it was the thing that appeared to be level and straight was labeled not level and straight. So you can consider it not level and straight because what was written there.
You can think of it that way, right, Eli?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when you want an angle of elevation, is that a down angle or an up angle?
I think what he's getting at is like
It's an up angle. It's an up angle.
Okay, so an angle up from what?
Horizontal.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll need a flat plane. So the lying protractor and its message printed on, you don't have to have that as the arbiter of your world. That's the conclusion.
It's gotten so bad that they have to say the protractor is lying when they use it for elevation angles.
Yeah, that's a reification fallacy, though, isn't it? A protractor can't lie. It's like if a street sign misleads you. Yeah? Like it shows priority, you're right away. And then you smash head on into somebody and they say, well, the sign told me I had right away. You go, lying sign, let's get it. Let's strangle the sign. Bastard.
They do it subtly, but in plain sight.
People are that stupid, though.
They do it subtly and in plain sight because they'll show an elevation angle and put a 90 there and show it curving at the same time.
Is that why people shoot signs over there? You are entering Alabama. Bastard! Bang, bang! I'll show the sign. No?
Well, it looks like we need an update to the definition of straight, like they updated the definition of level to be adhering to the surface curvature of Earth's water. So just change the definitions of straight to adhering to the surface curvature of Earth's water, and bam, Bob's your uncle.
And that's why you shoot signs, is it? That's far more complicated than I was expecting.
Yeah, it also works by shooting dictionaries as well.
Burning them works better. Metaphorically speaking.
Words are meaningless.
Whether you're a
Hold on, who said it? Was it Chocolate? I heard Chocolate. That's where I was going when I said metaphorically burning them. Go ahead, Chocolate. Can you repeat that?
That's why the definitions of words are meaningless.
End quote. Ruhif.
But level is an observation. Level is an observation, right? Level with the surface of the curving water is presuppositional.
No, necessary prerequisite isn't a presupposition. You're not presupposing it's flat. It must be for it to work. That's very different.
Not what I'm saying is, if level is level to the surface of the curving body of water, that's the presupposition.
That's a presupposition, but it's also a contradiction. So no. Yeah, I understand that's their premise, but it's also a glaring contradiction to anyone with half a brain.
Yep.
And don't go burning books because you'll find yourself in the bind with the law.
I thought Elijah was getting at the whole, they'll teach you the truth in the sextant and then turn around and show you a sphere within those manuals. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the protractor. I was using a flat plane to derive my elevation angle, but on the protractor I wrote is not flat.
Okay, I've got an example of that too. So this was provided by 10th Man in the pre-show. So what we got in this depiction is the use of a sextant, and it shows you how you're measuring your elevation angle. And it shows or alludes to this yellow line being curved. That's what it's showing in the diagram. That's how it looks. However, it's marked out as having a 90-degree position, making this a square. Can't be anything other than a square. It's got a 90-degree angle to the GP of the star that you're measuring to do the triangulation with a right-angle triangle. It's got to be 90 degrees. That's why it's labelled as such. But someone could turn around and say, look at this depiction. It looks like it's curving. No, the geometry requires it flat. That's why you've got a 90-degree angle. You must have 90, otherwise the geometry fails. It's one of the prerequisites for it to work. Moving on, any scientific evidence of gravity?
You mean that invisible non-force force that's no longer relevant?
No longer emerging?
Well, people can still use it, though. Even though they don't actually know what it is or can't really define it, they'll still use the idea of it.
But is there scientific evidence of it? Absolutely not. No, there isn't.
But it depends on whether science actually proves anything.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but you can't even formally hypothesize it anyway, so you can't you can't do any experiments.
Go ahead, scene chaos, or however you say it.
I said you can't even formally hypothesize it anyways, so...
So I was going to say, like...
Well, you could if there was a phenomenon.
Start off all with observation?
You could.
Where we see this thing?
Yeah, but what's the phenomenon? Things falling?
Yeah, correct. There's no phenomenon, so yeah, what are you going to science? Correct. If there was a phenomenon, you could go forth and science it, but that's why we ask first step, well, what you're observing exactly here? Mass attracting mass? No, you're not. What's that bending pseudo-Ramonian force space-time? No, you're not. You're not observing that happening. It's just a conjured phenomenon. There is no phenomenon.
Concept attracts concept?
Well, even within their conceptual mathematical world, where they're asserting Earth has a mass, they're using a radius value they derive from a flat plane. So that's got to be troublesome.
Math attracts math.
Yeah, we're dealing with physics, though.
But you can describe that through math. Or...
Yeah, we're dealing with physics, though. Descriptions in math, that's abstract language, as opposed to the physics, the physical.
But what if the math is mostly based on physical reality?
Then the math is still a description in the abstract of something physical, as opposed to physics, which deals with the establishment of cause and effect within the natural confines of the world we experience. That's not descriptions of it, it's assertion of cause, by way of varying that which you assume causes an effect you've observed. In the case of gravity, there's no effect being observed. So saying I can conjure one within a description of maths, there's still no effect in physical reality. That's physics. We want the physics of it.
But what if the majority of the people that actually deal with this subject do believe that that's the case?
They believe that down is gravity, that weighing something in the medium of air is gravity. That's what they believe. And if they describe it as a bending fourth-dimensional space-time or the concepts of mass attracting mass, it doesn't change the fact that there is no phenomena in either regard to describe. And when you describe a single downward bias vector, you ignore all things that defy it, that don't go down.
Right. So that's why it's only mostly based on physical reality. You know, they can't get it all complete, but it's good enough. It's good enough to still teach it in schools, and majority of people believe this, even the higher educated ones.
No, they don't. The people who are... No, that's incorrect. The people who have gone through the education to be qualified to teach at this standard, at secondary level, physics, those people have gone through an education system that have told them in no uncertain terms that Newtonian gravity is not right. They've been told, Einsteinian being the current rhetoric, if you ignore quantum mechanics, they're told that that is correct. So when they go forth and teach it in schools, matter of fact, they know it is wrong.
What do they do about it then?
Nothing.
We can, we do, we must.
But that's the problem, right? They do get educated about it, but they don't do anything with it because, hey, you can't really do anything with it. But they still got to teach something, so then they just fall back anyway. They just know it's nonsense, but they still do it.
Well,
George Moses told us, man. We can, we do, and we must. consider Newtonian gravity as a force.
Well, there you go.
It really is one, but we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level. Come on, Arwen.
Right. What else are you going to do, you know?
It's not a question of what else are you going to do when you're talking about teaching children things that exist at the not really is level. Now, that's from the editor of Scientific American, George Musa, who's basically laying it out in no uncertain terms when we talk and reference the education of children. They're being taught something that exists at the not really is level. That's what they're being taught as fact. Well, I don't put my kids through a state-based education system to have them indoctrinated with such complete nonsense, which is confessed to being at the not really is level by a preponderance of people believing in it. It doesn't make any difference. It's not real. Gravity's not real. There's no scientific evidence for gravity. There's no cause and effect established through a scientific experiment. There's descriptions in mathematics. The abstract language of maths is all that they have in terms of the existence of this non-physical, non-existent phenomenon. There isn't one. Maths doesn't attract mass, and there is no bending space-time. It's a convention. It's a description. It's a geometry. It's not physical. There is no bending space-time. Show me space-time. And then when you show it me, which you won't, show me it bending. Yeah, you won't. What you might do to teach kids that crap is stretch out a bit of cloth and throw a couple of balls on it. And say, there you go, there's your bending fourth-dimensional space-time. Reified by this cloth. From a geometry that doesn't exist. God,
it's really only a description of it. You know, they don't claim that's literally bending space-time.
You're saying it's a description of it. What's it in physical reality? There isn't any
of the description. It's a description
beyond the
of
description.
the description.
Yeah, there is no it. It being gravity.
Right, because it's out of reach. They can't actually very manipulate it. It's in another dimension, right?
Then it's not physical.
What are you gonna do?
Then it's not real. There is no fourth dimension. They've just invented a geometry. That's all they've done. They've invented a new geometry. They've described with maths a new geometry, which includes the conception of time as a dimension. Now show me time. Now show me you bending time. You can't. It's a concept. But that's what they've done. Sandwiched in a concept as a new dimension and described gravity as the bending of that dimension. It's utter crap. But there we go.
You've said it. You've said it before, Nathan. They've hijacked true science under the guise of pseudoscience. They've taught it to everybody, so now it's consensus science, but it doesn't muster what true science is, cause and effect.
Yeah, and you've got to observe the effect for it to be a phenomena. It's not an effect until it's an observed effect. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. At all. "102 people watching. Please share the show. That's the only way anybody ever gets to see this. So if you're watching it, you'll be watching it because somebody shared it with you. So please smash that share button.
To the last question, it's just observation, but it stops there. They can't do anything after that.
I'm waiting for John to say anything they claim within those fields will need R.
Yes, they will, and the R requires a flat plane to get the angle measurements.
There it is. Any evidence of the R value? That'd be Earth radius.
Does John's kitchen count?
Yes. Anything is spherical. You just have to follow the right procedure during your measurement.
You could just assume it if you know the circumference.
You know how they get that? In heliocentric terminology?
You mean of a circle, right? Two-dimensional circle circumference? Yeah, go on.
Well, I'm asking if he knows how they get it in heliocentric terms. What's giving them that circumferential value? It's a derivation of the lights in the sky, of course, but I just wanted to know if you knew how they derived it.
No, actually, I didn't know.
It's the equator. It's the average.
I just know that they assume it.
Well, no, they've derived it. They haven't just assumed it. They've derived it from the celestial movements of the sun over the averages of the seasons. That's what gives you your equator.
Well, didn't Brian already talk about this, and we all know it already, that they use the Polaris, which is steady as any star goes. It's the only one. And they said, well, listen, when it's at the horizon, and then if we go 1 degree this way, we can't see it anymore. Of course, due to perspective and everything else that we know off of a flat plane. But if we move 1 degree this way, we can barely see it. If we keep moving towards it, it goes higher in the sky. So in order to fool people that this is just a perspective issue over a flat plane, we'll say, let's mark the equator here as our sphere and say, once you're here on the sphere, you can't see it anymore. And we'll give it a 5,400 nautical mile distance.
Yeah, that's exactly how they did it, to be sure.
Of course it is, because we all see it too. We see the sky, we see the sun, the moon, the stars. And it's like, how do we trick people with this? Hijacking perspective.
Take the number of arc minutes of your ceiling fan and calculate the distance in the GP, and from there, if you can calculate, assume an orbital mechanics of the ceiling fan, and you've got a distance in relation to number of degrees of arc that the ceiling fan travels, then you can assume and extrapolate that to the full 360 to give you a equator circumferential value, which in John's kitchen's case was 550 inches or 45 foot 9 inch. It's very accurate method of making up a equator value.
It's the celestial sphere con, basically. You've got a flat plane with a measurable arc through the protractor. Now, if you imagine a protractor lay on the floor, a 180-degree protractor, obviously it's got a curved top to it, and all of the angles that you can project out from that position on the flat base that it must have gives you what could be then described as a dome of the heavens above you. Well, if you then project your position out onto it, essentially, you've then got the line you're actually making that measurement being the centre of a sphere. Yeah? And all lines must then come in parallel from infinite distances around the sphere that is now the ground, where it was the angle at the centre of the sphere you've projected below you, rather than being the actual angle measurement. So it's essentially just a swindle from the celestial sphere to the heliocentric globe. That's really all that's happened.
Well, it's worse than that, but that'll be coming up in future shows.
Yeah, it's nice to get to the nitty-gritty of the swindle. The how is one of those questions that is always going to be wanting answered. You know, what, where, who, why, how. The most important question being why. And when anybody asks that, it's like, same as anything. Power, control, that's about it. Seems boring, but unfortunately that's what it always is going to boil down to. Just men. Greedy, greedy men who want more. That's all it is. It's sad, isn't it? You gotta laugh, right?
Look for the origin of that and you'll find your answer. That's coming up next.
We've also got the who, haven't we, when it comes to the lie. And that's the bit that probably gets us the most opposition, because when people come to assess who it is that's actually lied to them, for the most part, it's a prevalent Western world view that's self-perpetuating. you've lied to yourself and you've maintained the lie. And other people in the system that you live in have propped up and promoted aspects of the heliocentric religion, one being the globe. So your Superman producer, when he shows Superman flying around Earth as a sphere, he's not being told, I doubt he's being told explicitly to make that the focus point of that particular shot. In a heliocentric world, he's just, or she's just grown up with that as the idea and has just perpetuated it on the big screen. Well, that's led everyone else to grow up with that idea more cemented than it was prior. And then they've gone forth and perpetuated out the lie to their children and their children's children and so on and so forth. So when it comes to the, well, who's lied? Well, we've been born into bondage, as what is it, Morpheus says. It was already prevalent when we got here, just like whatever religion of whatever timeline you can look at was already there when anybody's born into it. And therefore, when they're told the stories of their gods or Zeus or whatever it is they're being told when they're growing up, you know, we look back retrospectively and go, oh, well, they were just told these fables and parables and stories because at a deeper level they wanted to carry on ideas of the sky and the stars. It's like, yeah, but for the person that was living in that time, that was just the way the stars and heavens were, because that's what they were told they were, and everyone around them believed it. Well, for us, that's heliocentrism. So the who is us, isn't it? We were the ones peddling it. Me, I've got my stories of talking to my niece about it when I'm pointing up at the stars and telling them what they are in a very heliocentric way. So who's the who of it? Well, it's us, isn't it? Embarrassing. The where, though, is the question itself, isn't it? Where are we in reality? Well, we're on a flat plane in reality. And while that might skew what you had as a good grasp of where you were, well, doesn't change the fact that the world itself hasn't actually changed, hasn't unfolded from a sphere shaped. It always was the way it was, and you just had men around you lying to you about it. Still the way it always was. A realisation that you've been lied to is really all you get as a benefit at the end of that, because the world doesn't change. It still is what it is. Check out how deep my panel are in thought over what I'm babbling about.
You're right, mate. There's not a lot to respond to. It's acceptance of that point is the disappointment, and to speak to their motivation is a futile thing. Recognition that you're being lied to is sufficient for me to try and second guess. I know you said it's greedy men, and yeah, I won't deny that bit, but try and second guess. It becomes even irrelevance to me. It's sufficient to know we're lied to, is for me. It's like wasting energy again, isn't it? It's not worth.
Absolutely, especially if you get to the who, and it's an individual who's perpetrated a particularly egregious lie that you perceive. Well, if you try and divine that person's motivation, number one, there's a good chance they'll continue to lie to you if you try and appeal to them. They might try and regain your trust and just lie to you all over again. And if you find out that they just did it because it was fun, for the sake of it, just so they could smile and smirk, you know, is that going to make you feel better? Especially as the journey to get to that point, if you ever got there, which is unlikely, would be one of deceit and lies, more lies, you know. So what's the point? You know, once you address or figure out that you're being lied to on a big scale, you have to turn your back on the people that you know are perpetrating that lie. And I'll give you a for instance, with almost, you know, complete immunity. I don't feel in any way like I'm going to be scorned or punished for saying what I'm about to say. NASA and any space agency are overt liars. Now, there's going to be people within those systems, because there's thousands of people that won't be in any way conscious or aware that they are deceiving the world with what they do. Quite the contrary, they're put in place to be plausible deniability. and therefore completely absolved of any guilt or any deceptive finger-pointing from our direction. But there are certain people who, I don't know who they are, but within that organisation, who absolutely, without question, do know that they're lying through their back teeth. They must. Why? Well, because what we discussed earlier, the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum being claimed. We journey to it. So it boils down to who in the public eye can I point the finger at? Astronauts. It's about it. I can say they're all liars without question. Go on, who is ever desperately trying to interrupt off mic? Neil.
I want to read something because you brought it back to there. If my wife would stop texting me and binging me. Okay, let me read this quick. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's Genesis 1:1. And his creation was good. Verse 31. This raises the question of our current world in such irreversible decay. Or as scoffers put it, why did God create an imperfect world? The obvious answer is that God did not create an imperfect world. The world became perfect when humans sinned. That's in Genesis chapter 3. From this passage, it appears a new principle of decay was enacted into creation when sin entered the world. This is known as the principle of entropy or the second law of thermodynamics. That's all I wanted to read.
Where's that reference from?
This is from ICR, Institute of Creation Research.
That's loose, man. That is so loose.
Yeah, it is. It goes on, but I just wanted to read that part.
I hate that, if I'm honest, Neil. I hate it. I hate it so much. Some guy's come along and decided that he's going to spin his interpretation of this description of decay in that instance in the Bible into his version of the second law of thermodynamics. Now, while I might agree with the sentiment, so it leaves a bitter taste in my mouth to say, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. People do this all the time with the Bible, and it's disgusting, frankly.
It's just straight blasphemy.
Well, let me
blasphemy what you've just read there.
Spirit and physics
an
don't
individual man's incorrect perspective to take scripture and pervert it for his worldview. That is blasphemy.
I agree.
He might not. Let me read a couple of more things. I'll get back to you.
Is the second law of thermodynamics specific to decay alone? The answer is no. So his premise is false.
Yeah, he goes on to say that. So don't attack the freaking guy. Relax.
We're not.
Continue reading.
You're owning this argument, so it's you.
Yeah, it's you, Neil. Don't mistake that we're attacking the.
I'm just saying I misunderstood it. That's all. So I'm reading up on it. But I'm not the first one to think of this. The hot and cold destroys that. Yes.
Repent now, Neil, before it's too late.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that the person who you cited doesn't understand it.
Outrageous. Neil's not taking ownership.
I'm going to read. No, he straightens it out. That's just the first thing I read. He goes into everything. Boltzmann and all of that stuff. I'm just reading it now.
Okay, well, we'll leave you with this, Neil.
Neil, if I did what you did now, I would never have formulated the Sextant argument. Do things with a lot of research, checks and balances, and
hold on. I was just saying I'm not the only one who thought of this. That's the only reason I read it. You jumped on and called the guy blasphemous. Didn't even give me a chance.
No, you. We were calling you blasphemous. It's you that has to take ownership of this argument, Neil. You're the one presenting it.
I listen. All right, I should have prefaced it by saying, "Oh, I'm not the only one who this thought entered their mind."
Oh,
Excuse
I see.
Me,
you think? Let me get it straight. Neil thinks an appeal to consensus to back up this would have saved him.
Yes.
No, not at all. So, Fiber Oats, shout out to you. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Lying, protractors. Oh yeah, sorry, I have to contextualise how this is being written. Of course, lying protractors. One-sided debates and house with molten iron cores. Oh my, we didn't get to molten iron core, Fiber Oats, but thanks for reminding me. Any evidence that you can have a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of that presupposed spherical house? I mean, Earth. Did you see how Neil has got super defensive, super fast? We're only messing with you, Neil.
I'm reading on. Here's the second part. Okay,
so much for the research. So much for the research. Then talk.
I just want to go because maybe this guy straightens it out. What is the law of entropy that set in motion the decay that currently dominates our natural world? The earliest ideas of entropy arose in the early 19th century out of the work of Lazar Carnot and his son. I don't know how to Sadie. Who the hell would name their son Sadie? With heat engines. So the earliest concept of entropy was first associated with the study of thermodynamic systems. Subsequently, the work of Rudolf Clausius, Ludwig Boltzmann, Josiah Gibbs, and James Clerk Maxwell led to a more comprehensive definition of entropy, one that interprets all possible microstates in a system as contributing to the initial and final macro state of the system under any type of transformation. Does that straighten it out a little bit?
What, your bastardization of a Bible verse to tie it to that? No, no, that's still an absolute outrage and total blasphemy.
This modern view of entropy embraces the ideas of reversibility.
Hold on, Neil wants to chant a bit more.
This modern view of entropy embraces the ideas of reversibility, disorder, and randomness of a given system.
Okay, we've got no issue. No, hold on, Neil. We've got no issue with this description of entropy.
It out, don't it?
Yeah, nice summary of entropy and its history. Very nice. Who cares?
I just don't want you to attack the guy that wrote the article because I read 2 verses.
No, we're attacking you for using it in citation to link it to that particular Bible verse about decay. That's the issue, not his description and summary of the history of entropy as a description. That's not.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, go on, because it's you that we're moaning at. Yeah. Take it on the chin.
Chin.
Okie dokie.
Neil, that's your opportunity to throw a guy under the bus because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Say that again, citation, please. You got rumpused.
I'm saying that's Neil's opportunity to divorce himself from the citation by saying that guy is incorrect and I was incorrect for using it in my argument.
Yeah, we did highlight his lack of ownership of the argument earlier on.
I did own it.
Okay.
The citation you just gave, the bit you just read, kind of snatched your own wig off, dude, didn't it? It kind of affirmed the point we were making.
Yes, that's why I read it.
That's why I did it, obviously.
Of course. That's what I thought.
Because you were saying that people take this and Bible and that and they just bastardize it. Give the guy a chance.
It's you we had an issue with coming on Flat Earth Debate and blaspheming like
No, you said it, but I read that guy's thing. That's terrible. Attacked it.
Misappropriation of scripture from you.
Shut up, Adam.
The problem is that the Bible describes processes that require changes of entropy before the fall. So the guy's incoherent even within his own assertions. He has to change the definition of entropy in order for anything for him to do to follow.
There is.
He does as we go on. As I read on, he does. So
there is a bit you could link, Neil, in terms of like cancer cells replicate forever. They don't. I can't remember what it's called, but at the end of when cells replicate, there's so many things. I want to say telmers or tame or something. But there's these little bits dangling on the end, and there's only so many of them. Somebody help me there. Was that
called a telomere? And they degrade over time for every reproduction cycle.
So if you're wanting to look at something like the fall of man, that would be the point that genetically God introduces that, which limits the number of times cells can replicate. It brings in, it is old age. That's why cancer cells never die. They never get old. They don't have this cell replication function. But that would be the point you would look at in terms of sin coming in, that the introduction into the DNA, that you put these limiters in terms of the number of times the mammalian cells will replicate, which isn't entropy, but that's the way I would say you'd limit man's age.
Total silence. You chuck a dog a bone. That's what you get.
Moving on.
I'm glad I weren't on my own. Whoever helped me in Discord there, thank you.
Citation.
I'm interested in seeing if this hole will go deeper than Nicola Super Deep.
What was that, 12K? We didn't get an answer, Molten Iron Core question. I think that was actually the last housekeeping question at the 56-minute mark of the show.
It's comical now after all these years with these housekeeping questions, because we do it because there's people who actually believe it. And it's comical because none of them are coming here to prove why they believe it. They can't prove any of their beliefs.
No, they don't even answer them. They say they're childish and toddler. Anybody can answer them, but they don't answer them.
Well, that's like the guy who posted in chat that we are misreading what the sextant manuals are saying and navigational books are saying. And then after that got dealt with, then they said, well, the guy that wrote that book was poor with his illustration.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny as heck. We go to their own books, their own religion, and then they say, well, that's a poor illustration of my religion. I know, but it's in all the books.
That's why they come up with their own subjective interpretations and create an offshoot denomination.
There you go. Excellent summary.
So we at least have one denomination that represents itself in here often, the space Plumbobians.
Is that a reference to the guy earlier, whose name I keep forgetting?
No, that's you don't need the horizon. We do need the horizon. I mean, you can mix them all together and come up with the space Plumbobians.
You check my screen, I've got the space Plumbobians working in the background still.
Yeah, but who was the guy we were talking about? The Cox something or other?
David Wilcock.
David Wilcox.
Adam, are you in the ISS?
You can have a field day with that name itself.
This is the Space Plumbob 1 research station.
Yeah, I could see there's two spherical things behind you. Where are you? You're not in the ISS because I see two planets.
No, Nevada.
Oh, you're in Nevada. Okay, no wonder.
Excellent stuff. With that, though, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream, stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!